Maizey, and she is a North American porcupine. Now, these guys are pretty common in the United States. However, they are very elusive. So they spend a lot of times hiding in trees, and they are mostly nocturnal. So they're not very easy to find. They also prefer colder climates. So I'm sure Maizey is not a huge fan of the high 80-degree weather that we have going on today. But just like we acclimate to whatever environment we're living in, these guys will acclimate as well. So she is acclimated to the Southern California environment, although her species is typically found in either higher elevations or further up in the United States. So think of anywhere you'd see pine trees. Colder temperatures, colder environments, that's where her species is mostly found. So Maizey is one of two North American porcupines that we have here. We have Maizey, and then we also have a younger North American porcupine named Maple. She was actually found and brought here from Project Wildlife. So someone's dog had actually gotten a hold of Maple when she was just a porcupet. And
Aww.
Maple was not able to then be re-released into the wild, and so that is how she became an ambassador here at the zoo. Maizey was born at a different zoological facility, and she is about 14 years old, so she has been doing ambassador work for a long time. She is very well versed, very spoiled, very rough life, as you can see. She's working very, very hard right now for that food. But yes, she is one of the two porcupines that we have here, North American porcupines, and she actually, about 2 years ago, she had a baby. So we did have a North American porcupine come down from the Phoenix Zoo, and he came here to breed with Maizey, and they had a baby. His name is Dakota, and he now lives over at Wegeforth Bowl. So if you guys ever watch the Wegeforth Bowl shows, you might see Maizey's son, Dakota. Now, they are a solitary species, so it is normal for them to live separately by this stage. So it is perfectly natural for him and her not to be living together at this time. Fun fact, though, when Maizey was pregnant with Dakota, so this was the first North American porcupine that we had ever bred here. And when it came time for her to give birth, we noticed that labor was taking a little bit longer than it should be taking. And the baby was also very big, and we did not think that she was going to be able to safely have that baby. So our vet staff actually performed an emergency C-section on Maizey, and both Maizey and her son Dakota survived. What we didn't know at the time was that was the first ever successful C-section performed on a North American porcupine where both mother and baby survived. Luckily, our vets found that fact out after the fact, not to put pressure on them beforehand. But anyway, pretty cool story. But then, of course, Maizey, she needed time to recover from that major surgery, and she didn't have that immediate bonding time with her baby. So our NACU team, which is basically like NICU, but for animals, so NACU, they stepped in and assisted Dakota and hand-reared him. So he is well and thriving over at Weg Bowl now. So Maizey is the second largest type of rodent that we have here in North America. Does anybody know what the first largest rodent is that we have in North America? Not the world, but North America. Anybody know? Capybara? That's the Americas. That's in South America. But for North America, the largest that we have is a beaver. But very good, though. So her species is the second largest rodent that we have here in North America. However, as Shane was kind of just demonstrating, she has something all over her body that none of her other rodent cousins have. Does anybody see something special on her body? Anybody see anything there? Anything that you might not want to touch?
Quills.
Yes. So she has all of these quills all over her body, and none of her other rodent cousins in North America have these quills. So these quills are just a special type of hair, and she has about 30,000 of them all over her body. We know that because Shane counts them every single morning to make sure they're all in place. Yeah, it takes half his day. So these quills have a very important job of keeping her safe. Has anybody heard about porcupines shooting their quills? Yes, we've all heard that rumor, right? That porcupines will shoot their quills. Well, that's actually just a myth. So porcupines don't shoot their quills. I think that's just kind of a cartoon Hollywood movie effect that has kind of spread that rumor. They don't shoot their quills, and I'll tell you why. So everybody go ahead and touch your head. Touch your head. Okay, now what do you feel on your head? Hair. Okay, now when you guys are frightened or angry, can you shoot your hair off your head at your enemies? No, we can't do that. So we can't do that, so Maizey cannot shoot her hair off of her head either, because those quills, as I said earlier, are just a special type of hair. It's keratin, so it's made out of the same thing that our hair is made out of. And it naturally sheds, just like our hair naturally sheds, but she cannot forcibly shoot those quills off of her body. They do sometimes, however, most of our prehensile tail porcupines do this behavior. They will shake their quills, like if they get wet or if they're just kind of readjusting, just kind of like you shake your head to readjust your hair. They'll do the same thing, and sometimes when they do that, their quills will fall off or their hair will shed, and so it might look like they're shooting their quills, but that's not really what they're doing. Now those quills are covering her entire body. The only place that she doesn't have quills are the pads of her feet and on her belly. So she obviously, and her nose. So she obviously wants to keep those areas of her body very protected. So if a predator gets to her, she doesn't want them to get to her belly because she has no way to defend her belly. No quills there, right? So what they will do is she will flare up her quills and then she will face her rear end at whatever predator is trying to get to her. So unlike us, she can control the reflex, the same reflex that gives you goosebumps. So you know, like when you're cold or if you get scared all of a sudden and your hair stands up on your arm. Well, she has that same reflex. However, she can control that reflex. So we can't just give ourselves goosebumps on command, but she can essentially do that on command. So if there's a predator nearby, she's going to flare up those quills. And the reason that she's going to turn her back end towards that predator is because that's where all of her business quills, I like to call them, are. So she does have quills all over her body, but however, if you take a look at her tail, there's a lot of really big, thick, powerful quills back there. And so she's going to be facing her most powerful quills, if you will, towards that predator. Now there is an animal, I always forget the name of the animal. What's the animal that makes her spin?
Fisher.
Fisher, thank you. Oh my gosh. I always forget the name of that animal. So this fisher preys on porcupines, and it has learned to take advantage of the behavior where, oh my gosh, Maizey. Shane's gonna help her out. She's like, I can't get down. They are very good at climbing trees, despite how difficult Maizey makes it look. So anyway, back to this fisher predator. So this predator has learned to take advantage of the fact that porcupines will spin around to face their rear end at their predator, and it will run around in a circle around this porcupine, and the porcupine will then go in a circle trying to face its rear end at this predator, and in doing so, they will get dizzy and fall over, leaving their belly exposed. So kind of a neat, interesting behavior that these animals have learned. So Maizey is an herbivore, and although she's very common in the United States, she was considered a pest animal at one time, because if you think of herbivores, right, you think of these wild herbivores, think of like squirrels. You know, they like to help themselves. If you have bird feeders, if you have, you know, crops, vegetables, trees, these animals that are native, they don't know that that belongs to you. They just say, oh, cool, there's this whole area of free food. It must be just for me. So these guys were considered pesky animals in some area because they like to chew on a lot of different trees. They like to eat a lot of vegetables. So if you have a garden or a crop, they're just going to help themselves to it. They don't know that they're supposed to ask. So anyway, there was a lot of work being done to try to deter these guys. However, in more recent years, we've learned that they are actually very beneficial for our environment because being herbivores and what goes in must come out. So what comes out actually helps fertilize the ground. And then if they are digging roots or root vegetables up from the ground, they're kind of aerating that soil and helping turn that soil. And they also, one of the coolest things that they do is they eat different types of food at different times of the year. So think about it. I mean, would you guys want to eat, I mean, I love turkey sandwiches, but I don't know if I could eat one for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day for the rest of my life. Could anybody else? No, not really. That's not very fun. Because we want a variety, right? So porcupines are the same way. They don't want to eat the same vegetable or the same tree every single day for every meal, 365 days a year. So they actually will eat different types of trees and plants at different times of the year, and that helps promote forest diversity. So they're actually very good for our environment.